Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm starting a few minutes late, but I usually do start a few minutes late anyway. I usually am, running from mass and morning prayer, having to make the cappuccino, which I made my cappuccino this morning. So I'm ready to go. And looking forward to us being together. Let me just move these forks and knives here. Ready for us to be together for another morning of chat. Colleen, good to see you watching. It's been an incredible week, hasn't it, since we've been together doing Cappuccino with Father Capoverdi. Hi, Kim. Great to see you. And a lot's happened since we've been together. I mean, very sadly to say, our country is in great, turmoil and duress, and there's lots of problems that we're faced with. Joe, good to see you. Celico, Miriam, Arlene, great to see you. Robin, hey Robin. Robin, I don't know if you got a message from your friends here in Westerly, but there's a little surprise that we have to tell you about, Robin. So we're going to be in touch with you very soon if you haven't already heard. I'll be listening in as long as my slow internet allows. Okay. Hey Deb, how you doing? Great to see you. Deb Tedesco. I haven't seen you in a while, although I've been following you on Facebook and seeing your beautiful children and what they're doing. And thank you for your daughter's service. It's to our country. It's really tremendous. My sister, Ana Maria, how you doing? Carla, glad I got your text. We're all set for the reminders you gave me and what's happening. So Robin, yeah, it's good. Hopefully you got that message, what we're planning. Our friends here in Westerly. Kelly, great to see you. Hope everything is going well. Hope you're safe and healthy. I think hopefully we got through the worst part of things. Dennis, hi Sue, you're here as well. Kevin, great to see you. Cappuccino, yes, I have my cappuccino. Let me take a sip here. My Italian nose is so big that I always get foam on it my first few sips. One of our traits as an Italian. So Kevin, good to see you. I thought, Jean, hi. I thought I would talk a little bit about Mary. How you doing? Great to see you from Cumberland. I thought that I would talk a little bit about what I talked about in my homily. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to my homily today, but I hope you did. And if you didn't, then please go back and listen to it. I talked about how we're in terrible social unrest. I celebrated Mass today for times of civil disturbance. It's one of the votive masses the priest may offer as an option in the sacramentary, in the Roman Missal that we have. So it is important that we look at what's happening today and look at these protests and think. And a lot of us are saying, which I can understand people saying this. I don't want to be too critical of them, but people are saying, look, protests are fine. It's part of America. It's part of what we do, as long as there's not rioting and looting and all this happening. Well, it is happening. So maybe it's time that we just, calm things down a bit. We're all in agreement here. We all agree that what happened was an injustice. Let the Justice Department take care of it. There are problems maybe that these people are complaining about. They need to be heard. But if your movement is being entangled with, and there's not a lot of separation between those who are protesting and those who are looting and everything and causing violence, then maybe it's time to stay home. Maybe it's time, for the sake of our cities, to say, look, we need to just cool everything down and stay home for a while, there'll be other times to protest, but right now it's being it's in these protests happen in conjunction with all of these terrible acts of violence. That's a disgrace and should never take place. And I think part of the problem that we're faced with too, and I mentioned this in my homily, is we can't expect good to come out of a protest unless it's based on God, unless the protesters are praying beforehand, unless they're reading from the Bible, unless they know that Jesus Christ is their Lord and Savior, and that He is the true lawgiver and the true determination of justice in the world, and that we're fasting and praying. Now, like I said in my homily, I think these protesters it would be good for them to take a page out of the book of how pro-lifers protest. When pro-lifers protest for the Roe v. Wade and against the decision of Roe v. Wade in January, we get there the night before. On the way there, on our buses and in our cars, or however we're getting there, we're praying the rosary together. We're reading from the Bible. We're joining in hymns of song and praise to God. The evening before the march, we all go to the to the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. There are tons of priests there. There are lots and lots of members of the hierarchy. We're all of the church. We're all praying together, and we're basing everything in prayer. And the night before, we're praying. The morning of the march, we have a mass that we pray the morning of the march. So we're constantly in prayer. And then we're able to, after prayer and after fasting and making a pilgrimage, we consider it a pilgrimage to Washington, D.C. And after all of this, God-fearing people get together and they march. There's no looting, there's no violence, there's no civil disturbance, there's no business owners being destroyed of their property. And that really is the way to do it. I would dare say that the media would treat pro-lifers a lot differently if when we went to Washington, all this havoc was wreaked on the nation's capital. We would be treated totally differently by all of the mainstream media. We'd be treated totally differently by MSNBC and CNN and their networks exist to bring down Republican leaders, Republican elected officials, not even Trump, although certainly him, but anyone who's a Republican, anybody. They'll even love Republicans like Senator Kane, John Kane. They'll even love him but as soon as he runs for president, they were terrible toward him. Same thing with Romney. They love him now, but they hated him when he ran against Barack Obama. So anybody who is going to be a conservative Republican, we have to expect that they are going to be treated the way they are treated on these major networks, because they're really Democratic operatives. That's really what they are. So who are the anchors of MSNBC, CNN? They're all Democratic operatives. And it's interesting because I was in the Rockefeller Center building in New York. There's a great shoe shine place there. There's a guy who owns that business. He's a tremendous man, and I've gotten to know him because when I'm in New York, I get my shoe shines there. And there's like 6 chairs that are lined up. And those guys, they are such hard workers who shine those shoes, and they do such a professional job. They know what they're doing is important for people because they want to walk around presentable and with their shoes shined, and they take pride in what they do, the men who work there. And the whole business is a great business. It's right underneath in that mall area of Rockefeller Center. And I was there once during the election of the presidency, and MSNBC is on, of course, because it's in the Rockefeller Center. I don't expect anything else from them. I don't expect CNN or Fox News to be on. It's an NBC building. But nevertheless, I'm in line because there's always a line waiting, and I'm in line. And this guy who's in front of me or something, he's on his phone, and it's just MS, and I have to listen to MSNBC. I have to sit there and subject myself to this total dishonesty in what they're reporting, and I'm listening, because I have to. And I finally got so frustrated. I said to the guy in front of me, I don't know who he was. He had a suit and tie on, which most guys, get their shoes shine, very well dressed. So I'm behind him, and I said. And he kind of caught my eye a little, and I looked at the TV and I said, this network is doing everything they can to elect Hillary Clinton. And he said to me, well, you guys have Fox News. I'm like, yeah, one network, as opposed to the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN, every other network in the world, even in Europe. I constantly have to tell my Italian friends, they'll call me and they'll say, wow, did this really happen? I'm saying, no, it didn't happen that way. This is the really, yes, this is really what happened. So even in Europe, the news is completely, left of center. Sometimes even, of course, communists in Europe, that's much more common there than here. But even here, it borderlines on communism, but like our schools. So really, in order to combat this, we just have to pray. We have to pray. And that's what I said yesterday in my message at 4:30 is, we really can't do anything except pray because, all of these powers and forces are manipulating things and are kind of causing what's happening around us. And it's demonic, really. And there's no way, the only way that we can combat demonic forces is with prayer and fasting. That's the only way. And turning to the Blessed Virgin Mary as our mother, being under her mantle. That's really the only answer. I mentioned in my homily that the Chancery building, downtown, we have that building where the bishop's office is, and all of the marital court and, the diocesan run vicars, of the various dicasteries, I guess you might call it. I don't know. That's a Roman word. I don't know if we call it that here, dicasteries, but offices of the bishop. And that building was vandalized. A rock went through the window, and I don't know if they got in there, and there's nothing really to steal. And if they did get in there and walked around the corridors, all the doors are locked. And if they break into the offices there isn't much to steal in the Chancery, nothing of value at all. But the fact, though, that it was vandalized, that the bishop's office, where the bishop works, was vandalized. And I really hope they're not intending, our Democratic legislators in Rhode Island, I hope they're not intending to have big rallies here. And I hope the politicians aren't going to gin up, the people in our state against, the authorities and against businesses and small business owners. I mean, we did have some vandalism, but I really hope it doesn't get to the point where it's escalated to like it has been in New York or LA or Minneapolis. We're a blue state, everybody in this state, our politicians agree with these people. So I don't understand what the problem is. I mean, and we all are in agreement with the injustice that took place. So usually you protest because you're protesting something that people disagree with you on, and you're trying to get your point across. Everybody agrees that and protesting is fine, of course, as part of the American, experience and culture. But, like I said, my opinion, we have to do it in prayer, or it's just not going to mean anything. It means nothing. We're walking and we're saying, hey, hey, ho, ho. What's that? Hey, hey, ho, ho. This has to go. Like, first of all, you can't think of a better rhyme than hey, hey, ho, ho. But secondly, pray the Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Our Father who art in heaven. That's how we're going to make effective change, by prayer and marching, not prayer and chanting hey, hey, ho, ho. Those words mean nothing, and they'll amount to nothing. They'll amount to nothing. So, we really do then have to remember that and really, look at all the people who have been affected by this. That beautiful black man who was a security guard, who was the captain of the police department, a retired captain. He has 5 children. He has like 10 grandchildren or something, just shot dead by these looters and protesters and people who are causing trouble. Where's the marching for him? Where's the rally cry, for this guy? Where's the big funeral for him? Where's the outcry against the violence that took place against this black man? It really is, there's a lot here that's all muddled, and there's forces that are controlling all of this that are beyond, anyone's control right now, except, prayer. And that's why, we need to pray. So that's kind of in a nutshell, what I preached about today. And there was no sound. I had no sound at Mass. I just did it. I wonder why. I wonder if anyone else has had that experience, that there wasn't sound. I'd have to check and see. I know that happens sometimes to some people for some reason, but then other people say, no, I could hear perfectly fine and I had sound. I don't know. I'll have to look back on it and see. John, nice to see you. Martins. We must pray. Yep. For the poor business and property owners. Absolutely. Claudio, good to see you watching. Dave Mitchell. Yeah, Dave, I wonder if Dave's my handy, trusty assistant here who helps me out so much. I wonder, Dave, if there was sound. I don't know. Some people are saying that at Mass there wasn't sound. I know I get that every once in a while, and I'm not sure why. Joe, great to see you, Joe. Joe Escobar. If you haven't had a chance to see Father Joe Escobar's talks that he has been giving during the shutdown, his pastor's messages, please listen to them. They're really worth listening to. They're very, I think, poignant and spiritual. And his church is so beautiful. He has one of the most beautiful churches in the diocese. It's a Portuguese parish. And when he shows it online, it's just spectacular. The Reredos and how beautiful it is. And our Portuguese community is so tremendous. Italians always, and Portuguese always say we're cousins. We're close cousins. So it's great to see you, Joe. Yeah, I know. My sister, she's saying something very true, that, I'm preaching to the choir, that is true. But I'm trying to reiterate things that I know we share the same feelings. And it's incredible too. I live in Rhode Island, and you would think I live in a state, that's so blue, and that everybody would be liberal Democrats. I live in that state, in the coast. I mean, I'm one of these coastal state people who live in the deep, deep blue state. You would think that I would have so many people I would know who are really left, Democrats. I really know so few. It's incredible. My whole family, except one person, we're all in agreement and being conservative Republicans. All of my friends, except for one. So only 2 people that I know, a relative, a family member, and a friend, a very close friend. Those are the only 2 out of all of my family, my extended family, my cousins, my friends, my close friends, people in my parish. Like, I only know 2 people. I don't know. I always find that interesting. Why? I don't know. Maybe it's because I, hang around with these people, but still, I mean, it's my family members too. I mean, you don't choose your family. You don't choose to hang around with your family. They're your family. And yet all of them except one, feels the way we do. So it's weird, isn't it? And I don't know if that's your feeling about this, that you maybe feel the same way, but I don't know. And then, what's incredible too is that I mentioned in my homily, oh, you have sound, Arlene, good. Good. I'm glad to hear that. I have David Mitchell working on it to see if what went wrong or what happened. But I'm glad you do now. I don't know. It must be something with your settings, or I know you're not the only one who has said that, but other people say that they had sound. But something too, I mentioned in my homily that there was a priest, Father Ruggieri, who's a priest in St. Patrick's in Providence, who had to sleep in his church 2 nights ago because of the rioting and the violence in Providence. That is incredible, isn't it? That we live in the United States of America. Did you ever thought you would see that day that a priest would have to sleep in his church in order to defend it and try and talk people who are maybe going to break in out of doing that? But I'm going to call him. I'm going to call him today. I know the priest. He's a tremendous man and a friend. I'm not close to him. I don't hang around with him like I do maybe some other priests in the diocese. But I certainly, know him pretty well, us being around the same age and both being Italian Americans as well. So I'm going to call him and I'm going to tell him that if he is going to have to sleep in church again, I want to come into Providence. It's my hometown. It's my home city. As I mentioned on 4:30, I really want to be there with him and sleep in the church with him if he has to do that again. I want to offer that. I'll drive from Westerly at night, and I'll leave at 5 in the morning or something so I can get here for mass or whatever. But I don't want him to be alone in church. And maybe he wasn't. Maybe there were other parishioners with him that were doing that. But isn't it incredible in our day and age that we have a priest that has to sleep in his church in order to defend it because he's afraid of vandals? His church is right near the State House. Isn't that just like unbelievable? I don't know. Can this be something of God? Can this be good? Could anything good come from this? You judge a tree by its fruit. Like I said, the pro-lifers, when we march peacefully, we're praying the rosary, we're singing Marian hymns, we're arm in arm with Protestant brothers and sisters. We have lots of Protestants out there who agree with the Catholic Church's teaching, moral teaching that abortion is wrong. And we're arm in arm, marching, in solidarity with Protestants, and we're getting along, and it's ecumenism, and we're talking about things and about faith in the Bible. And, so it's just so beautiful to see Protestants and Catholics coming together and marching because we all believe in Christ, and we all are using this opportunity to pray for effective change, namely to stop the killing of the unborn in the womb in our country legally, and we're peaceful, So that's of God, and we're this close. We're this close to getting Roe v. Wade overturned. This close. One more Supreme Court justice, and we did it. And that could happen very soon if especially if we have a president that's going to appoint somebody to the Supreme Court who is a strict constructionalist. So really, that is how to protest. And the fact that a priest has to sleep in his church, it's terrible. I don't know. I'm wondering if I would ask my father things. My father grew up in the 40s, and he was born in 1934. And I would say to him, Dad, did you ever think in your lifetime, like, we'd see abortion be legal, and and I would describe other, terrible things that took place in America. And he was like, he said to me, I never thought I would see it. I just never did. In the 40s and 50s, when I was growing up, just never imagined that America would turn out this way and we would be doing these things. And I kind of feel that way now, even for myself. I think growing up in the 70s and 80s, I never thought that we would get to the point where a priest, like, imagine, like in the 70s, you were told, in the future, a priest is going to have to sleep in his church at night in order to defend it against rioters and looters and people who are trying to destroy church property and other property of your city, I would just be, you would think that that is sacred ground, that the protesters would walk by a church and maybe graffiti something, which is terrible if they do. Anyway, any public building is terrible. But you would think that the sacredness of a church would be something like, hey, the church is on our side. They believe in the things we believe, and they're against violence and a killing taking place that shouldn't have by a cop. We're on their side. You would think that they would just walk by the church and, respect it, and walk away. That's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with people who have no respect for property or for anything. So that's why we really have to be fortified in our faith, and we have to be, praying so much as we are. And I hope you'll join me in my rosary every day at noon, because we really, have to pray as hard as we can. Stephen, good morning. Enjoying a cigar. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I smoked. Sal came over to the rectory and we smoked not too long ago. I had a what is it called? A Fat Bottom Betty. I think that's what it's called, a Fat Bottom Betty. And boy, that was delicious. Actually, it had a little bit of a chocolate tinge to it. It was very, very good. But Stephen, I know Stephen certainly posts a lot of things that, and you're one of those people of my friends that I was saying, agrees so much. I don't know how, if so many people agree with us that we know, and only one or two, and they're good people. I mean, they're tremendous. My friend who disagrees with me politically is one of my best friends that I've known my whole life, but he's only one. Out of Sal is a very conservative Republican. So all of my other friends and all of my relatives and family except one. So you wonder, like, why is our state so blue? I mean, when we have so many people who think red, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but we just have to, like I said, fast and pray. Rick, great to see you. Tori, I can't wait to see you at Mass very soon. Rebecca, Lupinacci, hi. Jennifer, Christy, Maureen, hi. Like I said, I always feel like romper room here saying hello to everyone. Bob Bruno, come stai? Buongiorno, Bob Bruno. Come stai? Hope everything is well. I have my cappuccino. As you can see, I make it pretty well. You know that. I love your cappuccinos though. When I'm in Acre, it's like I said, my favorite place to be is a bar. Besides churches, of course, being with the friars at the Sant'Angelo. But my favorite tourist spot to be at is Bob Bruno. And what's great about Bob Bruno is I sit there in the morning and so many people just come up and want to talk to me, want to chat. I'm dressed like this. I'm dressed in my cassock, and they want to chat. They want to talk. They have relatives here in Westerly. They tell me who they are and what their last name is and how they're related to my parishioners, because there's so many people from Acre and Westerly. It's like an incredible connection. My grandfather was born in Acre. My father's father was born in Acre, Calabria, but he went to Providence. It was kind of interesting. Everybody who was from Acre came to Westerly. Everybody. And my grandfather went to Providence. And even when I asked people like where they're from as I was growing up, what part of Italy are you from? Oh, I'm from Caserta, or I'm from Basilicata, or from Puglia. And I was the only one whose my grandfather came from Acre in that area that I knew. No one else I knew of came from that town in Providence that I knew of. I know there people are up there that I've met that are from that area, but very few. They're all down here in Westerly. So I have to ask my grandfather, please God, if I'm in heaven with him, I'll have to ask him, Pop, why did you, move to Providence? Like, why not Westerly? But I don't think there were many people from Westerly. He came very, very early on, and there weren't many people from Calabria, from Westerly at the time. He immigrated here in 1897, And that was before the wave of people from Akron came here. They came here a little later. I think they came here in the like the 10s or 20s of the early 20th century. So needed to take another sip. Okay, so Gene, great to see you. Thomas, great to see you. Thomas, yesterday I made broccoli rabe and I made cannellini beans, and I put them together and I fried some sausage, and I put that together, mixed all in, and I made it over rigatoni. My favorite pasta is rigatoni di Cecco rigatoni number 24. That's my favorite pasta. So I made that over pasta, and I put a little bit of supreme ricotta cheese, on the side, and kind of, mixed it in a little, and it was delicious. It was delicious. So for those of you who don't know, I always mention it when I see his name, that Thomas Bruzzese is his father is the founder and owner of Supreme Ricotta Cheese, and that brand is in every Italian refrigerator and is in every Italian home. Whenever we made lasagna or manigot or stuffed shells or anything, even just putting a little bit on the side, we always use Supreme Ricotta Cheese. Peter, great to see you, buddy. Glad you're watching. William Rodriguez. Hello, everyone. Paul, great to see you. Yes, I think we all agree that the justice is long, giving rioters excuses. Yeah, that's right. We all agree with that. Arlene, my cousin Arlene, is making a very, very good point. Steph, nice to see you watching. Facebook had sound. Okay, thanks, Kim. Wonder if it was a problem with YouTube. I don't know. YouTube, I think there is a way. Welcome to live chat. I wonder if there's a way of, it says learn more. Oops. I hope I didn't do something here. All right. I better do that later. There might be a way that Facebook could, that YouTube can live chat too. So Giovanni Di Bella, glad you're watching. Salute from Italia, Padre. Blessings to you. Hope the craziness. Yes, I hope so. Stefania, I hope so too. Stefania gave a very good message here. Salvatore Capalbo, salve. So we have to hang in there and be. We have to be together too. We have to be unified. And you know what I find incredible is that here we are, social distancing, we have to wear masks. In order to reopen our churches, we had to have all of these rules and regulations that needed to be in place by the authorities, telling us, especially in blue states, the authorities telling us, you have to wear masks, you have to socially distance. We don't know if we should even open. Our diocese, I think, had a really, really fight, with them, with the authorities here in Rhode Island to say, hey, look, we want to open. So all of this, and we have to make sure that we wipe down all the pews after every mass. And that's kind of a hardship for a lot of parishes because some parishes don't have the volunteers. They don't have the staff. We're not Target or Walmart, we have all of these employees that we can just assign, to do things. It's a hardship for churches to do that, to get it ready. And we had all these requirements. We got to sit 6 feet apart. We have to give communion in a very sterile way with a mask on. And these same authorities are telling us we can't have the 4th of July parade. We can't have the Mount Carmel feast. And these same authorities who are telling us that are encouraging people to go out and protest and to be close together with each other. These protests are not 6 feet apart as they're walking along the streets. They're not social distancing. It's incredible, isn't it? That here we are, as a church, people that want to go to mass are told we have all these requirements we need to meet. And these same people are telling us that telling people that they can march and just go, as many people as possible to go out there and march. We can't have the Mount Carmel procession this year in the streets of Westerly because we have to socially distance and we have to be careful. So we can't have the Mount Carmel Feast March this year because the government is telling us, the Rhode Island government is telling us, we can't have people that close together. So we can't march for Mount Carmel. Well, let me ask this question. If we can't march for Mount Carmel, how come these people are able to march? How come they're able to have a march when they not standing 6 feet away from each other, and they're actually encouraged? The same people who are discouraging us and telling us that we can't have the Mount Carmel march are the same people that are telling them that they can get out there and march all they want. Could it be there's an agenda here between the people they like and they don't like? I don't know. I'm just asking these questions because it's baffling to me, why this is happening. And, we really have to be, focused on that to know, and maybe that will change things for Mount Carmel Feast. I don't know. Maybe we could write to our, congressman and governor, our Catholic governor, and who's pro-abortion, partial birth abortion actually too. And maybe we can write her and say, hey, wait a minute, how come you're encouraging state house gatherings and these people to march in Providence where they're not socially distancing, they're not 6 feet apart. And the governor and the politicians here are encouraging those people that they can march on the state's capital and they can be close together in their protesting. But we can't, for Mount Carmel, march along the streets because, of this ridiculous decision that we have to social distance, 6 feet apart as we're walking down the street. Is there a double standard there or some kind of a dichotomy in all of this? And maybe, I don't know, maybe Gina Raimondo needs to be told that. Because if I see a big protest in Providence, and we have seen it, but if there's another one scheduled and there are tons of people crowding the Capitol and they're shoulder to shoulder and our government and everything is accepting this because it's their right to protest, then why isn't it our right to march at Mount Carmel for 3 miles on July 19th when we have it planned? Why? See, that's what doesn't make sense to me. And I think these questions have to be raised and have to be asked. Don't you? All right. So I don't know what you're talking about, Arlene. You said my mother would tell you no. About what? She'd say no a lot, actually. She was tough. She was a good disciplinarian, my Aunt Josie. She didn't let too much get by, but she did it in such a loving way. There was always a lesson involved, and there was always bringing us together. If we had a dispute or we were, playing and then got into a fight or something, as cousins, she'd bring us in and she, do it in a very, very firm way, but a very loving way, almost laughing when she would discipline. My Aunt Josie disciplined, almost laughing about it and saying, look, what are you doing? This is, you can't do this. And then she would always say, my Aunt Josie would always say, as we were in the middle of a big fight with my cousins, didn't happen often, but when you're playing, things like that, your kids. And she would say, do you guys realize that when you're older, you're going to look back, you're going to laugh. You're going to laugh and say, what are we arguing about? This is ridiculous. And she was right, of course. And we would sit there and say, yeah, I guess someday we probably will look back at this and laugh. And she always would say that when we would get into little scrimmages or little fights, about things. Look, you guys, this is crazy to act this way. It's nothing. You're going to laugh about this when you're older. That's how my Aunt Josie disciplined. Always in a loving way, but she was firm. There's no doubt about that. I didn't want to get her angry, that's for sure. But I'm not sure what that reference is for, Arlene. Claudia have voice on Facebook. Okay, good. Glad people, but I think, like I said, we solved that problem. Let's see. Father Zeno, great to see you watching. Um, Thanks for all that you've been doing. Your great camera work is tremendous. Your meals that you prepared. I mentioned that I made that little dish last night. I don't know if you ever made that broccoli rabe with sausage and cannellini beans. I like the Progresso cannellini beans. I find the other cannellini beans to be drier. I like in Progresso cannellini beans. They have that like liquid with it. There's like it's packed in more liquid. I don't. It's like water probably, or it's flavor. I don't know what it is. Salt maybe with it, but it's in a more of a liquid. And I use the whole liquid. I don't drain the cannellini beans. And I like the liquid. And when I was little, my grandmother used to make me a treat where for a snack she would take like hard Italian bread that she might have, and she would break it and she would put it in a bowl, all the hard Italian bread. She'd put it in a bowl, and then she'd get the cannellini beans. And there was Progresso. She always used Progresso. And she would, cook the cannellini beans, olive oil, garlic, onions, let it really cook for a good period of time. Because, I don't know, my grandmother always made the beans soft. I like the beans when they're soft and moist. I don't like to drain them and just put them over something. I really like them cooked, and I like them with that liquid that it's packed with. And I find the other brands that aren't Progresso, that are cannellini beans, I find them to be very dry, not packed in that same liquid. And they, when they cook, they're not as soft. They're not as, they kind of have that bit of a bean crunch to them that even as long as you cook them. So I just avoid buying any other kind of cannellini beans except a Progresso. But anyway, my grandmother would, make the cannellini beans and pour it over the hard Italian bread. It was delicious. It was delicious. It was a nice snack. The only thing is, my grandmother would put the garlic right in the beans, so you couldn't tell if it was a bean or a garlic. So you really had to be careful, because I like to cook it with garlic. I like it minced. Like, I like to chop it up very finely. What I do is when I make something, when I'm sauteing something, I olive oil and I put garlic in the pan. I put a little sliver of butter too for the flavor. And then before the garlic gets brown, I take the garlic out of the pan. You can't let the garlic get brown. It'll affect the taste of the oil. So before the garlic gets brown, you take it out. And then with that garlic that has just been marinating in olive oil on the stove, so it's warm, and I take that and I chop it up very, very finely, like mince it. And then later on, if I'm making a sauce or whatever I'm doing, I'll throw that minced garlic in. So I don't mind the garlic flavor and the flavoring of garlic. I just don't like to bite into it. And my grandmother used to have these big chunks of garlic that she would put in the beans, and you couldn't distinguish the cannellini bean from the garlic. My cousin Bobby once was on his way to a Little League game, and my grandmother called him because she made I don't know if it was the beans and bread, or if she made him the pasta vazul. I think it was maybe pasta vazul, but I don't know. I'd have to ask Bobby. And because you make pasta vazul, of course, with the elbow pasta or the tubetti pasta, and then you make a sauce, out of tomato, and then you mix the cannellini beans in it with the pasta. And he said he was eating it and he thought it was a cannellini bean, and he bit into one of the cloves of garlic, and he was like, So I don't know. My grandmother would just do that. She wouldn't take the garlic. I like to take the garlic out, but my grandmother loved the garlic though. She thought, what are you, crazy? You don't take it out. You bite right into it. You'll love it. So anyway, that's what I made. I was just talking all about this because Father Zeno had his cooking show. And something I want to know, Father Zeno, because you're watching this, how come I wasn't invited to sit there as one of your guests on your cooking show? You know how much I love your cooking, and I would love to sit at the counter there, especially as your former assistant. So we're gonna have to talk about that, why I wasn't invited. So, but it was fun though to watch, and I learned so much. That brajol thing you made was incredible. It was like an Italian meatloaf. I've never seen anything like that, but I've had it before at your house, at your rectory, and it's delicious. So, so it was great to see it being made, because I wasn't sure. You taste things and okay, I think there's this in there and there's parsley. You can kind of tell recipes when you're eating something, but there's some flavors in there that you're not sure what they are, and unless you're kind of taught what it is, you really don't know. So that's why it's been great to have your shows of you cooking. Yeah, and Father Zeno, because Father Zeno is saying it makes no sense. He has a Mount Carmel feast too, where I was part of that for 6 years when I was there. And then I would come back to it all the time after I was assigned somewhere else. So I've been to it many, many times. And his feast is so beautifully, as a big tent and a perfect situation where the park is right across the street from the church. So it's such easy access. Everyone just leaves the church and they go right into the park, and they have food, and Father Zeno cooks lasagna, and it's just and the statue of Our Lady of Mount Carmel is out there, and it's so beautifully done. And they've been doing it for over 100 years. And this year we're told Father Zeno can't have his feast, and I can't have my feast with the procession. How come Gina Raimondo is encouraging everyone to go downtown and protest around the State House, and she doesn't care if they're 6 feet apart? Ma perché? You gotta wonder. The only thing we can do, folks, is vote them out. That's the only thing we can do. The problem is they don't have opponents. It's just, they always run unopposed, or what they do is, if they think they're going to have a tough opponent, the party in charge here will run a third party candidate, and so it'll split the vote. So our politicians who win don't usually win with the majority of the vote. They win, with someone else running, who is, bought and paid probably to run, and they divide the vote. So as a result, we only have one party. You can't have a one party system. If you only have a one party system, there's no point to it. Our State House, one party controls everything, and the minority party in the State House, the House of Representatives, has like 5 representatives. Maybe there are 3 or 4 or something in the Senate. There's no competition here, and unless you have the give and take of 2 parties kind of fighting it out, and voices being heard of the other side. It's terrible. Progressives have just taken over Rhode Island and have that snows money from big corporations and big donors from outside the state. That's really what happens. We have these bundlers. We have these liberal bundlers who get all this money from outside of the state. Because it's a small state, they can do that. They can control things that way. It's just unfortunate. We're just in Rhode Island. We're in a very bad political situation here. It's really sad. And as a result, this is what happens to us. We get mowed down, by our politicians, where they tell us in the church, you can't have a crowd of people for your feast. And then but if they agree with a crowd of people getting together, they allow it and they encourage it. It's bad. It's bad. California has the same problem. New York has the same problem. New Jersey, it's just terrible. But at least in New York and New Jersey, there are some members of the opposing party. Here we don't have any opposition. We have a Republican who represents us in Westerly, but that's rare to have that. He's the minority leader too of the Senate, and has been on our side when it comes to pro-life. So it's just sad though, that things are the way they are. Steve Petriaca, the best way to handle this is to pray and smoke a cigar, right? I mean, to drown our problems, just have a nice heater. And the Three Stooges called cigars heaters. Get a nice heater, and have a nice smoke. And maybe I'll do that today. The weather is beautiful. I'll go on my patio and have a cigar today, I think, just to kind of, calm myself down a bit. Cooking and smoking a cigar are the two things I like to do to calm myself, other than, of course, prayer. Yeah, I know a lot of people are. Diane, ciao, good to see you. Hope everything is well. I haven't seen anyone in a while, but I miss you, Diane. I don't know if you saw, Diane, Umile read at Mass this weekend, but he's one of our lectors, and he was reading on Sunday Mass. Even if you want to go back, I think it was at the 11. He was reading. His wife is watching, so you'll have to check it out. Angie Guido is watching, and his wife. So you'll be happy to see that Umile is doing well, and his son is doing extremely well too. He got so big. Hey, Brian is watching from Westerly, Father Brian Sestari. I'm sure you're just as perplexed about these questions I'm raising as anybody else. Brian has been great on his Facebook page, fighting back against, these forces that are trying to stop our church and have this radical agenda. Father Brian is a great priest. Someone, again, I haven't seen in a while, but it's, like I said, we haven't seen anyone in a while. We should get together. I think priests, I should maybe call up some priest friends, Brian and, Jay Finelli and some of my other priest friends, and maybe we should get together, because we haven't been together in a while. And, maybe it's about time. Father Zeno, we should, not wait for a confirmation or something when we usually do it, but maybe get together sooner than later. Just march for Our Lady of Mount Carmel and start a fun praying fun. I know. I think, we don't want to be civilly disobedient as Christians. It's not our history or our, belief to be civilly disobedient, which is why we're following all these rules, because Christians have always done that. Unless it's a grave moral law that the state is telling us to follow, like, when Barack Obama was, mandating that the religious sisters provide abortion in their healthcare options, and they were defiant against that, the Little Sisters of the Poor, and they took it to the Supreme Court. So unless it's a law like that, where they're telling us, they're imposing upon the church an immoral belief. And the Little Sisters won. They beat the president, Barack Obama, at the time, and they were victorious. It was great to see President Trump had them, the Little Sisters of the Poor, in the Rose Garden, and he supports the Little Sisters of the Poor 100%. So unless it's things like this, and I think the Little Sisters have another case now that they have to deal with. But and other than that, we as Christians, we believe in civil order. We believe in being living in a country, where we disagree with things, not promoting things that are going to be anti-government, or it's just our way, So and plus we have the bishop we have to listen to. So if we can't be disobedient to the government, if the bishop says, look, even though it's unjust, you have to still do this or that. We have a higher authority than the government that we answer to, and it's the bishop. As priests, we swear an oath of loyalty and obedience to him, and priests take that, I think, very seriously. Most do, and it means that we really have to, listen to him too. So even if we wanted to, let's say Father Zeno and I wanted to say, we're going to, do this because if marches and the State House can be together this way, then so can we. We have to, listen to the bishop. The bishop says, I know it's unjust, but I don't want you to do it. Then we don't do it, of course. So that's just, the way the Catholic Church is rightfully so managed, to make sure that we're all kind of on the same page. And no one can be like a dissenter or a maverick, like hugely. I mean, there are guys who are dissenters and mavericks, but I'm talking about in a very large, disobedient public way. it's atypical for that to happen. Although it does happen, I have to say. You are giving I don't understand what Miriam Martin. You are giving me Aquilian and Bucca. Oh, kiss those with those. Oh, giving her a willy for those foods. Well, you got to make it. That's the thing. Make it progressive, make it yourself. Yeah, I don't know how to make cannellini beans. I mean, I don't like to open cans too frequently. Cannellini beans, you go to open a can. I like whole peeled tomatoes. You go to open a can for certain things, but I don't know how to make cannellini beans. I know Italians do. I'm sure if I called up any one of my parishioners from Italy and asked them how to make cannellini beans, they would know in a second, and they probably make them at home themselves. I bet they don't open up a can to make cannellini beans, but I do. I've never learned how to make cannellini beans. Okay, so Kathleen is watching, and Pauline. Let's see. So great. So we're almost up in time. I'm about halfway. My cappuccino. Great, everyone could watch. And we could spend time together. As I said, I have an appointment at 10:30. So I'm going to get things a little ready for it. See me at noon. We have the rosary. I'm starting a 9-day novena rosary for the purpose of a civil order and against this civil unrest that's taking place in our country. And that protesters will truly protest with having God first in mind, and then love of neighbor. We have to have, before love of neighbor, we have to have love of God. If we have love of neighbor without love of God, then love of neighbor can mean anything, that especially things that are diabolical. So we have to have love of God first, and then love of neighbor. And if we don't have those two things together, and love of God first, then everything we do is going to be in vain. So that's why we have to continue to pray and continue to do our best, especially asking the Blessed Virgin Mary for support and help and prayers. So, and listen to Sinatra, as I have him in the background. He'll definitely, it's a great album that I recommend for you is Only the Lonely. It's a picture of Sinatra with a clown like face and a tear. It's called Only the Lonely. And that's one of his best albums. It really is awesome. But that's, pray first, and, let's pray the rosary together. But at some point during the day, for a little relaxation, listen to Sinatra. He's so soothing. His voice is the best. He's the voice, the chairman of the board. My father always said, a voice like his only comes around once in 1,000 years. My father always said that. So, and listen to Only the Lonely. It's a really great album. You'll really like it. So anyway, have a great morning. Have a great day. Hopefully you can join me for our times of prayer. Let me give you a blessing. Okay. We'll end with a blessing. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. Amen. Almighty God, we ask a special blessing upon all those watching. We ask that you keep them safe from harm, that we stay focused on prayer, stay focused on your mother, interceding for us, being wrapped in her mantle, being in your grace. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. And may the blessings of Almighty God be with you, descend upon you, and remain with you forever. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. God bless everyone. And I'll see you at 12 for adoration and rosary of our first day of our novena. God bless.